Hey, it's Rebecca with Rainail Studio, and today we are doing some long acrylic nails. We are doing a full set, and this is just in 2 times speed, so it's kind of like real time. This set took about 2.5 hours, and my time is getting better, but I definitely don't care about rushing. So let's just get into the tutorial. So the first thing you want to do is prep the nails. Now, this client did have a few nail injuries that she had to let grow out, so you will see that on a couple of nails. But the first thing that I always do is I always push the cuticles back, and then I'm going in with a fine sanding band just to rid the nail plate of any cuticle, dead skin, and of course the shiny layer of the natural nail. Once I finish this with the sanding band, I am going to go ahead and start working on the cuticles. Basically, prepping to trim the dead skin that's around the nail, just to give it a clean look and, of course, for good retention. The first e-file bit I use is a tapered cuticle bit. This is a carbide bit, and I'm just going to hit the sidewalls really good to make sure I'm getting all that dry skin out of there, and of course the cuticle that has been sitting there for a few weeks. I am looking into the Russian manicures a little bit more. So I'm most likely going to be changing my e-file routine just because I love that clean finished look that Russian manicures give. If you don't know what a Russian manicure is, it's pretty much a dry filing of the skin around the nails. And like I said, it's just a clean look. And of course, it's going to help with your retention. But for now, I'm just going to stick with what I know until I've educated myself some more. And I will hit the sidewalls with this bit. And then for this particular client, because her skin isn't like thin and frail, I'm going to go in with this extra coarse round cuticle bit. And this is really going to hit those tough, thick skin spots. I do not use this bit on every client because it can be quite aggressive. I just use it on the clients that have thick skin around their nails. Now I am trimming the cuticles. I do make sure that my nippers are sharp just to avoid pulling and tugging at the client's skin. When you're nipping cuticles, you want to make sure that you're literally just clipping, clip, 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 because you do not want to injure the client or cause any discomfort. Now, with my cuticle cleanup, I do struggle a lot with small areas, but we're getting better, okay? Just make sure that you are being very careful because, like I said, your nippers need to be sharp and you don't want to cut anyone. But you just want to get as much of that cuticle off as possible so that it does not get in the way of your acrylic application. Once I feel like I've gotten everything, I'm going to go ahead and cleanse the nail plate with some Young Nail Swipe, and then I will apply the tips. I am using a no C-curve extra long tip, and then we did trim them down. One tip I have, I'm sure you guys have seen this, but measuring your length. So they have these little magnet things you can use. I just use a nail form as a guide. That way I can charge appropriately, and it'll help the client decide on what's best for them as far as length goes. Once the tips are applied, I am going to go in with a fine sanding band just to blend the tip. I am not touching the client's natural nail because we've already prepped it. We do not want to overfile. Now, when I'm doing this step, I do make sure that my e-file is on a low speed to avoid any heat from the friction of the sanding band and the nail tip. Now for the cleanup, we are going in with the Young Nails Swipe again and a clean no lint wipe. And then I'm going to apply my protein bond. So when you are cleansing the nails, you want to make sure that it gets a very dry cast over it once you cleanse it. And then when you go in with your protein bond, you can do 2 layers, you can do 1 layer. Either one is going to work just fine, because the key to long lasting nails and no lifting is your application. Yes, your prep is super important, but your application is the most important part of acrylic nails. The key to no lifting is to avoid touching the cuticle area. So when you are priming your nails, you want to make sure you are not touching the cuticle area, because the primer is something for the acrylic to stick to. So if you have it on your skin, what's going to happen if you accidentally touch the acrylic on the skin? That's where it's going to stick. So you want to make sure that you are not flooding the cuticle area. You want to make sure that you are not touching the skin with any product. Let's get into the acrylic application. Long nails can be quite difficult because you do have to use quite a bit of product. So you want to make sure you have enough liquid in your dapping dish, and you want to make sure that your liquid to powder ratio is good. I mean, like, not just to say good, but you want to make sure that you have that down packed. That way, every single nail will look identical. When I started doing long nails, I did really struggle with every nail looking the same, just because I was still figuring out, the ball method I want to use, the brush size I want to use, things of that nature. But here I'm just using a size 10 from the brand KADS on Amazon. And on these nails, I will do a 2 to 3 ball method. It just depends on how the nail is structuring. So you just want to make sure that you're not flooding the cuticle area, like I said earlier. And I'm going to say that until I'm blue in the face. Do not flood the cuticle area. If you have to clean it up, that's perfectly fine. But not touching the client's skin is extremely important, because you want to avoid causing any type of allergic reactions or contact dermatitis. This client does come every 2 weeks, unless she has caused an injury to herself, but she comes every 2 weeks and we do not have lifting. If she breaks a nail, it's because she did something to break the nail. But the acrylic application needs to be on point. Take your time. And of course, be very familiar with the products that you are using. Let's talk more about applying the acrylic. So I'm brushing the acrylic down, but the key to having a nice, beautiful structure of a nail is to not swipe your brush. Okay, your liquid to powder ratio should allow you to move the acrylic with the belly of your brush. You want to just pull it. You don't want to swipe it, because what's going to happen is that it's going to start to get thin towards the free edge, which will then require you to add more acrylic. And the goal to offering acrylic services is, one, to be time efficient. I'm not saying you need to rush or be fast or anything, but when it comes to finish filing, you really want to avoid having to take down any unnecessary thickness. So when you are applying your beads, you want to pull them down with the belly of your brush. Do not swipe, because one, you're wasting product, and two, you are actually causing more work to do to finish this full set. We can talk about brush sizes. So I have tried a size 8. I've tried 10, 12, and 16. I tend to be more comfortable with smaller brush sizes because they don't soak up a lot of monomer, and I have more control of how much liquid I'm actually collecting on my brush when my brush size is smaller. With my size 16, when I am doing long nails, I wish that I could work with it, but like I said, it just soaks up entirely too much liquid. So I think maybe if I was like a one ball method kind of girl, that I could get away with a size 16 brush, but it's just not for me. So I tend to stay within the 8 to 12 brush size. Now, every brush size differs by the brand, okay? The brush that I use today is equivalent to the Alpha Brush like 8, I believe. It's still fairly small. I do have a size 12 from Alpha Brush, but it is just a little bit too thick for me. So just find what works for you. Don't worry so much about what people are recommending. Just do what's best for you and go from there. Of course, you can teach yourself how to use different brush sizes, but I prefer just to stay within 8 to 12. Finish filing is really important because it's going to clean up your application and it's going to smooth everything over. So I stay with my 100 180 grit file. And when I am doing my finish filing for the shape, I go in with the 100 side. And then if I need to even anything out over the top, I will flip it over to the 180. But I did not have a thick application. It wasn't messy, so this part is fairly quick and easy. Once I have everything lined up and cleaned up, I go in with a fine sanding band again. And I do tend to run through my fine sanding bands with these sets, but I don't know. It's just something that I've been comfortable doing. So learning my e-file bits and grits and things like that has been quite difficult, but like I said, I'm getting the hang of things. I'm doing what works for me, and that's all that really matters. As long as my clients are happy, we're good to go. But basically, I'm just going to smooth everything over, clean everything up, and prepare for buffing. Now, with this particular client, I would have to say she is probably my favorite client because of her nail beds. They are wide enough and they are, I don't know, they just have this like girth to them that just makes me so comfortable. So I would have to say this is my favorite client. And then her tattoos, to add to the aesthetic, she always gets the same thing. She gets long nails with the French tips, with the black and white French tips. Sometimes she'll, you know, try to add a little zhuzh and she'll put some glitter underneath, but you know, she likes to keep it simple. But she has to be my favorite client because her nails are just very easy to work with and they look so good when we're done. Once I finish this process, I'm going to let her wash her hands and then I'll get into the French tip application, which I did not put in this video, but I did put an older clip of of a set that we did previously. And it's probably my most viewed and most saved post on Instagram. So I'm going to leave you guys with this. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Make sure that you subscribe and of course follow me on Instagram at BeccaB_. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Again, my name is Rebecca and I hope to see you soon.